Well, well, well. Would you look what the blog post dragged in? Well, if you haven't already heard, TF2 has officially announced the next community update. This announcement was posted, as far as I'm aware, on June 23rd, 2025. So let's go ahead and read through it together and discuss our thoughts. Howdy, on the internet Hoof here. So as I've already explained, most likely with an introduction, the TF2 team has posted a blog post relating to Man vs. Machine, and I guess potentially a related update in the future for TF2, which all sounds very exciting, I think. So I thought, since I'm so pumped and excited, we could read it for the first time together and, share our thoughts, hopes, concerns, general feelings, that type of thing. So let's go ahead and do this. So this was posted today, and it's titled Man vs. Machine Maps Needed. It was posted on June 23rd, and it has this picture here. It says, "We want you to make maps and missions." And you can see there is a Heavy from TF2 holding the head of a heavy robot. And in the background, there's also missiles going out and, just general war-looking area behind them. It is a neat-looking artwork. I don't know if it is original artwork or not. I guess we can test it right now by maybe reverse image searching. Let's try that out, actually. Voting for Valve's 2012 Team Fortress 2 Saxy Awards is now open. Okay, maybe this is old. Yeah, this is an old artwork. But now that that's out of the way, let's get into the actual meat of this, shall we? Looks like we have a couple paragraphs here, so let's read through it together, give ourselves some predictions, and, discussing all that. It says here, 13 years ago, we launched Man vs. Machine, a chilling cautionary tale where an artificial consciousness tries to take all of our jobs. You didn't know it back then, but that was actually a literary device called speculative fiction, where writers, us, accurately predict the future, the present, but then hide it so as not to cause widespread panic. Alright, before continuing to read, it's good to know that the Team Fortress team is keeping a light, joking tone with these types of things. I don't think that this necessarily means Team Fortress is back into any sense of its former maintenance or level of activity. In fact, I was kind of expecting there to be like a summer update by this point in time, but I could be wrong about when it normally would drop a summer update and things like that. But anyways, yeah, they're talking about some topical things about AI and things like that, kind of tying it to the MVM. Alright, let's continue reading. In an effort to keep panic levels low and apropos of nothing, we'd like to tell you a story. Once upon a time, a Man vs. Machine mode in a video game was getting a much needed update. And so a brave blog post writer, us again, asked the community to submit Man vs. Machine maps and missions in time for that update. For the sake of this panic-reducing speculative fantasy, let's put the fictional deadline at Wednesday, August 27th. Alright, so they are telling us a lot here. We got a deadline for submissions. So that is, how much time is that? August 27th. That's 2 months. I know nothing about TF2 map making or anything like that. So you'll have to let me know if anyone does know if 2 months is a fair amount of time or not to get a really good map together. But I'm assuming that people will be, bringing up maybe old projects maybe, and then maybe updating them and things like that. So maybe the community doesn't have to worry too much about that. If that was the entire story, you'd already be at a low panic level, but vaguely concerned about a looming dystopian future. Mission accomplished. But as is traditional in the genre of speculative blog fiction, there's more. The king of the fictional land where this all happened, ancient Greece, decreed on stone tablets that even though the update was dropping right around the ancient Greek candy harvest festival of Halloween, the maps did not need to be all Halloween themed, first tablet, and in fact, shouldn't be, second tablet. Alright, so apparently this update will be dropping around Halloween time, but doesn't have to be themed around Halloween, and apparently they are actively suggesting that it not be themed around Halloween. Now, I don't really mind that. I mean, having a Halloween-themed update, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of Halloween-themed content is only ever playable around Halloween unless you're doing a community server or something like that. So maybe that's why they are actively working against having Halloween-themed maps be made, though some of them could be. The king carved into a third tablet, held in the stone hands of a statue of primate George Washington. No, it's just regular George Washington in a dystopian future past where our sculptors are not as good as in ancient Greece. Wouldn't end in the end. Okay, so then they've also added that there can be Halloween-themed maps and levels and things like that. So add that to consideration. Let's just finish this off before talking anymore. Is this tale a simple flight of gripping, well-written fantasy? No. Or a chilling glimpse into a future that could arrive as soon as, again, Wednesday, August 27th, with a second part arriving right before Halloween? Yes, see paragraph 1. And as far as I'm aware, that is all the information we have available to us, although I did hear that there was a Twitter post as well. Now, I guess let's start with the negatives. This is, of course, seeming to be a community-driven update with community-made content, so Valve is not making anything. I'm sure there's probably back-end stuff that needs to be done, maintenance-wise. You know, they're going to be adding new things to the map, so I'm assuming maybe Valve has to do with bugs and stuff, so they are still, you know, signing on to do work on the game, and they've only really mentioned maps and missions, which, you know, I'm not complaining about that, especially for MVM. It's something I don't play as much as I'd like to, so that'd be pretty cool to have some new content put into that side of the game. But does that mean that we are getting crates as well along the same time as these updates? I'm assuming yes, but again, I could be completely off. Now, part of me is still excited, you know, despite all of what's happening with TF2 and more specifically how little is happening with TF2. This is exciting to see them post something like this, trying to get something going for Team Fortress 2. Now, I know there's definitely a lot of issues with the game as it stands. I'm sure that a lot of TF2 creators are going to be talking about, you know, what would be their ideal TF2 update. And again, there's way more pressing issues than not having more content be put in the game. So I guess I could put my hat on the pile there and say, you know, if I had to choose between more maps and missions for MVM and them addressing some of the core issues with TF2, yeah, I'd rather them address more of the core issues, but still, it does make me excited. I am human after all. Now, I don't know if this is actually the first time they've done a community update for MVM. Please let me know if that is or is not the case. My assumption is that this is the first time they're doing something like this for MVM. That could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. To be completely honest, now that I've started making videos, I really only ever play on 2 Fort because of the Details You Miss series. So I never really played a ton of the new maps brought on by some of the past summer updates and other community updates. I think what would make this a lot better though is instead of officially adding community maps to the game so that they can be played in casual, it would be a lot nicer if the queuing system was fixed. I've only really become aware of this issue somewhat recently, but after hearing about some of the things we lost, like the ability to go directly into potentially community servers and randomized matchmaking, I mean, those two things alone, or to be honest with you, just randomized matchmaking alone, that would be amazing. I think that would make a really big difference. I do not like skill-based matchmaking. I never have. I don't like it in any game, and so just that alone would be amazing. However, I don't think we're going to be seeing anything super large. I would absolutely love to be proven wrong or surprised, or maybe even a situation where TF2 is in the background prepping for something large in a year or two. That would be really cool, but yeah, I don't really know if that's possible or not. The only shred of hope I have for anything along those lines of that one Tyler McVicker video, if you haven't seen it, where they discuss Source 2 having a TF tag in its code. But obviously, that's all speculative and there's no solid evidence to even speak about anything. So, you know, that's a dead end there. Anyways, I guess let's talk about what I hope for this. What I'm hoping for, personally, is just some good maps. I don't know how people feel about crates, but I wouldn't mind there being crates for cosmetics, maybe a taunt or something like that. I'm assuming that that is normal. They will add that stuff regardless of what, you know, maps and that type of content they add to the game, so hopefully that is still going to happen. I guess I would mind if the cosmetics are really bad or affect the game negatively. That would be a really bad situation, but I'm assuming it wouldn't be that type of situation. And I mean, in general, even though it's not the type of attention most people are probably hoping for, at least TF2 is getting some attention. And as far as I've been able to tell, the bots have not been an issue in my experience for quite a while. So TF2 is definitely not in an amazing place, but is better off than it was, you know, whenever the bots was a big issue. Which again, not saying a ton, but better than nothing, I suppose. Anyways, I think that's about everything I have to say about this. Let me know what your thoughts are, and if you have any concerns or excitement for this potential update. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, be sure to check out the Patreon. There's a free tier if you'd like to be updated on what I'm working on, and there is a $1 pledge tier where you can have access to patron exclusive content. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.